Darnell Mooney says he's going to be ready to go by the start of training camp, and he also has high expectations for the Chicago Bears next season. We're also going to look at an article that lists 8 Bears players that could be on the bubble for the roster heading into training camp. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize. You guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we happen to be on. Let's go ahead and get into the content for today. So first up, Darnell Mooney says he will be ready to roll by the start of training camp. The direct quote that he gave WG in Chicago: "I'm feeling good. I'm ready to roll." But then he also says this: "Get ready to win. Tired of losing. Don't go for any hypeness or anything like that. Just get ready, town." Listen, here's what I'm going to say with that. Darnell Mooney better live up to those words, but more importantly, we've talked about how important it is for Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool to be ready to go by the opening of training camp. Missing mini camp, missing OTAs is one thing. We know that they were working out with Justin Fields even during the offseason, so I'm not looking at that too much. But by the opening of training camp, we need them both ready to go. We need no excuses for Luke Getsy to not have that playbook ready to go by the start of the season. Going to use preseason to kind of work out some kinks, maybe try out some things, some interesting things and formations, stuff like that. But having DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney all ready to go by training camp is the most important thing for Justin Fields, on top of the offensive line. Of course, the offensive line is the biggest thing because we need to keep our quarterback protected. But we need to see how interesting Luke Getsy can make this offense, passing offense, right? We know what we can be as a running team. We know how dynamic Justin Fields himself can be as a runner. But the thing that could dictate how different this season looks for the Chicago Bears is the passing attack. Now, yes, that's outside of just our wide receiver core. You look at adding Robert Tonyan. You look at Cole Kmet, who's poised to have a breakout season. You even look at using Dante Foreman in the passing game. But having the core of wide receivers ready to go is going to be hugely important for the Chicago Bears. So I'm happy to hear that Darnell Mooney is on track and on pace to be ready to go by training camp because we need it. It's flat out. We need it. This is an important season for Darnell Mooney as well when you look at the contract situation. But more important than all of that, when he says get ready to win, that is what the city of Chicago deserves. That's what Bears Nation deserves. That's what we need. That's what we've been missing for so long. Yes, last season was exciting. It was exciting to see the growth of Justin Fields and just how he matured as a leader and everything else. But it's time to start getting wins in that win column. And we'll see where that leaves the Bears at the end of the season. But excited to hear that Darnell Mooney's ready to go. But let's look. We have moving on from that, we have an article I want to break down from Brendan Sugrue, and he has 8 Bears players that could be on the roster bubble. And the first one up is one that I'm not going to lie, I have not thought about this player's name in a while. That's on me. Trestan Ebner. When you look at Trestan Ebner, who was a pick for the Chicago Bears last season and came in with some excitement around him, right? People thought, like, could Trestan Ebner eventually work himself into that running game? When David Montgomery went down, Trestan Ebner was given an opportunity, really didn't look too good in it. But when you look at the acquisitions of Travis Homer, also having Roschon Johnson, who definitely has a higher ceiling, at least on paper, than Trestan Ebner, it kind of makes sense right now that, hey, Ebner may be on the bubble if the Bears do need to do something. Now, I hope with his youth, I hope with also, having, players on one-year deals that maybe the Bears hold on to him to kind of see, because he still has promise in the special teams, if nothing else. But it breaks complete sense that Trestan Ebner may be on that bubble to make the roster. Next up, another name that I didn't necessarily expect to hear, but it makes sense again, and that is Velus Jones Jr., right? You look at it, the fact of the matter is, we don't know how Jones Jr. is going to be used in the passing game, if at all. The place that he can make his name the most at is probably on special teams. But when you look at the players that we drafted, right, and when you look at the fact that Dante Pettis as well, who's going to be, competing for that punt returner spot as well, hey, Velus may find his way on the outskirts, right? But I do think that when you look at his game-breaking speed, when you look at Velus and just overall, you're kind of the mindset that he came in even the last season with. If he can hold on to the ball, if Dropsy Jones can hold on to the ball, he can be a weapon for the Chicago Bears in the special teams. And we'll see how if any, that we work him out into that passing game. But overall, you have to look at Velus Jones and just say, listen, you got to come in and perform. He has to perform in training camp. He has to perform in preseason, because I'll tell you what, that definitely makes sense, especially with Tyler Scott coming in as well. it makes sense that Velus may find himself completely on the outside looking in, right? And if that happens, listen, it's going to be hard to get that spot back, especially if these players perform in those areas. So I don't want to overlook it, but yeah, I mean, Tyler Scott is probably right behind him in the kick return on that depth chart, as well as Treston Ebner, another player we just mentioned on the bubble. But if those players outperform Velus, hey, listen, it could be a hard season for Velus Jones, and he could find himself on the outside looking in. Next up, Alex Leatherwood. Now, this is a guy who only appeared in 4 games last season for the Chicago Bears. Didn't really have kind of, the expectation, but he's coming back from injury and other things like that. He's not going to have any chance to start, right? But as a depth piece, you got to look at Alex Leatherwood and what he couldn't bring. Can he bring that? He showed some really good flashes in his rookie season, right? And so because of the need for depth at the tackle position, because of he could absolutely stick around. But when you look at how the versatility of a player like Larry Borom, things like that, hey, listen, he could be looking for his 3rd team in 3 years, could Alex Leatherwood. And so it makes sense for him to be on the bubble as well. Next up, Doug Kramer. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this one in this article in Doug Kramer, only because the Bears held on to Kramer when they could have put him on the practice squad. They were worried about him being poached from the practice squad. So I think that the Bears coaching staff sees something in Doug Kramer. Now, whether that's going to turn into something meaningful for the Bears is one thing. But hey, when you look at Dieter coming in as well, hey, it could be something to say that maybe Doug Kramer is on that bubble. But I don't necessarily, this is one that I don't necessarily agree with overall on this list. Again, I didn't create this list, but hey, let me know what you guys think about it as well. Next up, Sterling Weatherford, linebacker. And I think this, it was a rookie last season, used mainly just on special teams. I think, listen, unless he just really contributes and they look at what his contributions on that special team is as something they don't want to miss out on, I don't know, man. I don't know. That linebacker core and linebackers in general we got a deep core there at the linebacker position. Sterling Weatherford could find himself on the way out. Next up, Andrew Brown. This is a defensive tackle, and I'm going to go ahead and say this. He got picked up off the Arizona Cardinals practice squad last year, and here's what I'm going to say. When you look at Andrew Billings, Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, he's pretty down the list on that depth chart. Now, again, they thought enough of him to give him a deal to bring him back. So, maybe he showed enough, especially as a depth piece, especially if they plan on maybe moving on from a Justin Jones or anything like that. But it kind of makes sense for him to be on this list as well. And then next up, cornerback Jalen Jones. Now, I don't know if it really depends on what happens with Jalen Johnson, right? That really determines that. But Jalen Jones, somebody who, contributed, I think, pretty well for the Chicago Bears last season. An undrafted free agent, played in 16 games, had a forced fumble, 2 pass breakups last season. I don't know, man. That cornerback room has gotten more crowded. But the Chicago Bears, considering what decisions they may have to make on one of their starting cornerbacks coming up, yes, they have other cornerbacks that they drafted, things like that. But I do think that, I don't know if I necessarily agree with those. So you guys can let me know what you think down below. Do you think that Jalen Johnson could be on his way out? I've gone back and forth on this one. I'm not going to lie to you, but ultimately I think when you look at the cornerback situation, you got Tyreek Stevenson, Kyler Gordon, in that you also have, Jalen Johnson. I don't know if I agree with this. Kendall Fedor is the one that needs to go, in my opinion. So that's kind of my thought process on that one. If anyone's going to go, it got to be Kendall Fedor first. Let's worry about getting Fedor the hell up out of here. I want to bring back Jalen Jones personally. That's just my thought process on it. Next up, Kendall Williamson is the last one on this list in this article. And he was the final pick of the 2023 draft in the 7th round, but they think that he may not make it. He's not gonna get any chance to start. When you look at Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, he's gonna compete for snaps with Elijah Hicks, AJ Thomas on that special teams. But I think he's probably gonna be on the practice squad more than anything, and he may not make that final roster. But I do think overall he's gonna have every opportunity to make this team. But let me know what you guys think. Were any names glaring to you that you don't think? Are there any names that you think should be on this list of Bears players that could not make the final cut and be on the opening day roster? The fact that Kendall Fedor wasn't on this list, that's a big, big point to me. Get Kendall Fedor off my team. But, I'm on the anti-Kendall Fedor train. That's just me personally. But thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for our weekend mailbag episodes, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related because of you guys. Like I like to end every episode up. Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.